Welcome to TARTLEcast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path.
Oh, and welcome back to TARTLEcast. You are here with Alexander McKegg, co-founder of TARTLE, and my co-host,
Jason Rigby.
And Jason, what are we going to get into today?
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit with you because I want people to understand the anonymous identity and the encryption side of things. So can we get a little bit into the identity side of it?
Yeah, no, I think that's important, right? Because when we are talking about data, data is identity. It is your digital identity. Now, TARTLE, and this is a big deal here, is over time, these profiles of us have been created, right, by these larger companies that aggregate our data. And in doing so, they come up with this idea of who you are, how you talk, how you think, how you walk, right? And then they apply those assumptions to your data when they resell it to someone to say, this is Jason, and this is what he likes. This is the beer he drinks. Blue is his color of preference. You know, he likes his tattoos this way or his pancakes this way. Now, when you profile people, it also creates a problem because it puts them in a box.
Right.
And right out of the gate, you know, when you're looking at someone's name in a profile, right? When I say, oh, Jason, that's going to make someone either comfortable or uncomfortable with them assuming a picture of you. So now let's look at a global perspective of this data, right? We're wondering, why is it that we're looking at the data profiling? Why do we make people anonymous on this exchange? We do this because it gives everyone just a baseline playing field across the board. Now, there's been some examples in the past, and I know you can share them in a second, but what we want to do is that if we're looking at individuals' data and how they sell it, we want to make sure that when everyone starts, we're all starting on square one.
Right.
It's not that because I can pronounce this individual's name and I can't pronounce this individual's name, I'm going to put them in two separate boxes.
Right.
Which means I'm going to offer them a service either at a premium or a discount, depending on my comfort of understanding of like who they are just because of the way their name's pronounced or where they might be from, you know?
Yeah, and we've seen that multiple times with, especially with loans, looking at people's names, you know, even to the point to where, you know, because, and I know we talked about this before, but even to the point where it creates, you know, that AI or whatever it is that's looking at that machine learning doesn't know racism, but it can take that data and then turn around and put it and say, this person has this type of name that is, you know, significantly from this type of country. So in turn, you know, they were even, there was two corporations that had gotten busted, you know, here recently for, you know, African Americans were being charged higher interest rates on loans.
Right.
So, you know, I think that's a perfect example.
Right. And so we look at the design of it, right? Right. So when you're designing your information right out of the gate, so if I want to profile individuals, that type of profiling, be it racist or something else, right, automatically puts someone in a box and puts them at an unfair disadvantage.
Right.
That didn't need to be there. So when we look at TARTLE, we encrypt and anonymize not only your information, but your name right out of the gate. It's an anonymous exchange because we don't want people to come out and, you know, lowball a price or a value for someone's information because they're looking at their name and they're like, their information, the way they think is clearly worth less than what we'd perceive from someone who might be a 6'5" white male.
Right,
know?
right.
And that's not fair, right? And frankly, it's morally and unethical, you know.
But the computer systems do not know that.
The computer systems don't know that. So, and it's not the computer system's fault.
Right.
By design, we have to have the proper intention on the system so that we don't have those issues, right? So from the core, you know, TARTLE was designed so that everybody starts on that even baseline playing field because there's really no difference between you and I as individuals, right?
Right.
It's just how we perceive one another.
Right.
So if we have an even perception, that means our data is going to be valued evenly. And then when that starts to flow through, then we have a nice, more common factor in our market.
Yeah, and I think when we look at it, you know, especially, you look at somebody that maybe, you know, car shopping and he's in Portland, Oregon and he's sitting in an apartment downtown and he works at the hospital there.
Right.
You know, there's a whole process with all those, data points that are going and there's a consumer journey that's happening. You know, they said it's up to, especially on the car shopping side of things, you know, it's up to 16 points where they're going through to look at all the different avenues, you know, before they even actually step into a dealership. So what does that look like?
So that's really interesting. So those 16 steps is because no one had a tool originally before TARTLE to come and ask the individual directly what they want or what they're thinking.
So do you want this to hit a camera, yes or no? Would it
Yeah,
be
that's
that simple?
exactly right. It's as simple as that. Do you want the Toyota Camry in red or blue? You know, I don't want it. Do I want it in 40 different colors? You know.
So instead, we're trying to find these 16 points and pull it.
Right, and then try and create this profile and be like, bam, we found it. That's the guy. This is what we want to sell him. But when it's like, wait a minute. If I pay this individual for this information to get an absolute direct answer of exactly what they want, all the emotional backing behind it, rather than taking all these little pieces to guess that the guy works at a hospital, he's in Washington State or wherever the hell he is, and then decide, oh, you want to know something? Maybe we can market him this car. That'll never get him through the front door. Right. So the point is that pay people for the information you actually want rather than try and guess.
Right, because they're just trying to guess and say, okay, we're using car analogy, but if there's an 18-year-old boy and he goes to the BMW website, and so they know that he's 18, looking at that M3, you know, the odds of him being able to, an 18-year-old boy to be able to buy, you know, a $100,000 car.
To afford something like that, right?
So that data would just be pushed to the side.
And it's a huge waste of marketing dollars, right? So it doesn't make much sense. So the key is to like use TARTLE, start on a base, keep it anonymous, make everyone's data even across the board.
Right.
And don't worry about all that guessing. Just go directly to the source, right? And ask them for that information.
I think it would be, you know, crucial, especially in the political landscape, when you're looking in these swing states and stuff like that, because we're always surprised.
Every single time.
Every single time. And then it's always this small niche group of people that have decided that, you know, in that county or whatever, you know.
That's correct.
Like, so how would that, like on a political side of things, with it being anonymous like that, how is that going to help someone that may want to purchase that data?
No, that's fantastic. So when we look at anonymity, right, to a statistician, they don't really care much about people's names. They care about a populace, right? So if we have thousands of users on TARTLE in a specific geographic area, and a politician might want to test a policy to see how that's going to work in a swing state or where it may be going, they can choose a populace of people they want to purchase information from. So out of the gate, we're not worried about their names. We're not going to, you know, chalk them off because we originally wrote our algorithms to be, you know, perspective limiting, right? Now it's going to be open. So they can test that information on an area before they go out and publicly make a policy change. They can actually see emotionally directly from the individual rather than taking a strange off statistical guess about, oh, this is what the people want. You know?
Yeah, I think, and I think when you look at it in that circumstance, now you understand the importance. Of it being, having a level playing field.
And you want to have that level playing field because when you come in and you're asking people for the exact information right out of the gate, and it's a totally even playing field, it's always having a clean slate every single time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nothing like mucking it up. So your data, it goes right to the source and you get the exact answers you need.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and one of the things that I wanted to talk with you on, because I know a lot of people look at it and say, we use this word encryption, you know, and we see, you know, Chase getting, you know, nailed with it, or these banks, you know, and then we've got this, you know, these systems that are happening. Why is it important to have encryption on the data?
You know, encryption is really important, right? So encryption makes it difficult for someone who's coming to steal that information or use it in a manner where they didn't ethically or pay you for it. That prevents them from finding that value in it, right? So what we want to do is we take your information that you put on the exchange and we keep it encrypted. So it's like we all speak English, but I turn everything into Braille or some sort of language that's very difficult to pronounce. So that when someone tries to come in and grab it, they can't use it. But when you pay for it, right, when someone comes in and purchases that information from you, that becomes translated back to a language that they can speak. And that's what's important, right? And that's where the protection sits.
And, you know, on blockchain, that makes that possible.
That's correct, yeah. And we'll get into blockchain in like a later episode.
Right.
But there are certain precautions we put in place to make sure that the whole ecosystem of TARTLE, the exchange as a whole, works as this coherent unit, right? So that everything does not contradict another piece, is that we all use these items and this technology to give you the best available resources to protect yourself and monetize your data.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at stealing data and they almost view it as a hacker, but we have these corporations that are actually taking our data.
That's correct.
Because they're not providing value by giving any monetary resource to the people.
No, the value stream does not go back to the individual, right? And they may be aggregating a lot of it, and they also have poor precautions, some of them, put in place to protect that information that they've kind of gathered over time, right? They're trying to get comfortable with it and they're like holding on to it, like being all crazy, like you don't want to let go of it. But now the tides are changing, right? And the view is that we as individuals will take this this control back of our information, right? We'll gain a respect that we didn't have for it before, and then we'll start to see that value stream. And starting with a baseline of anonymity and encryption, that will allow that playing field to begin to expand, and people are like, okay, I'm comfortable putting my information here. I know that it's going to be fair out of the gate for me, and that these data streams, I know that, okay, someone's not going to be getting a heck of a lot more than I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you don't have to feel like you're getting shortchanged in any of those areas.
No, I think that's awesome. And I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the next episode. And thanks, Alex, for sharing this with us.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to TARTLEcast with your hosts Alexander McKegg and Jason Rigby, where humanity steps into the future and source data defines the path. What's your data worth?